This podcast contains strong language and adult themes.
Date Night China explores life and love for better relationships in China. Every week, we hear from different guests and dive into dating, relationships, mental health, and how both expats and Chinese people connect with each other here in China.
Join the Date Night community through our podcast and events in Beijing and Shanghai, and catch up on all the latest stories on our official WeChat account.
Find our account on WeChat by searching Date Night China, no spaces, no capital letters. You can also join our WeChat group by adding Rachel, me, on WeChat. You can search Rachel Weiss 22, RACHEL WEISS 22.
And now for this week's episode.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Date Night China. Today joining us is Samantha, co-host of the From Tops to Bottoms podcast. That's a podcast about experiences with sexuality, feminism, BDSM, queer sex, and sex education. Two best friends discuss their journeys towards becoming their sexually liberated, authentic selves. So Samantha, one of the co-hosts, has lived in Beijing since February 2019, and she's going to share more about the topics they dive into on their podcast and how her dating experiences in China have helped her own sexual explorations. So welcome, Samantha.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
This
is so weird. This is the first podcast I've ever guested on.
Oh, really?
So it's really bizarre for me, but also quite a relief because I don't have to do any of the editing work.
You've been on the other side of it and you know the editing work and all the other things. And
this is the easy bit.
Yes, you just get to talk and then you're done.
I just get to show up.
Yeah, but I'm so excited to have you on. So I've been listening to your podcast.
I'm excited to be on.
It's
for a
hilarious.
while. And
we love it. The banter
so
is
fun.
top shelf.
It is.
Top quality.
You and Cassie have great banter, great energy, and you guys just get into real, vulnerable, real shit. Like, it's so good.
Thank you. That is the best compliment you could have given me.
We love it. Yeah. Can you give us your intro? You guys have a really fun intro that you just did before we started recording. Can you do that again?
Hello, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to another episode of Date Night China. My name's Sam.
I like it.
I love it.
We need a snappy
They've got it.
intro because, like, we used to say, hello, China daters, but because our scope has changed and it's a little bit about friendships and just lots of different types of relations, community and relationships. Opening with hello, China daters, it doesn't, we fear that we might alienate some of our non-China
you really do narrow
daters.
that down a bit.
Yeah.
And now everyone's leaving as well, so.
Yes, all the expats are going.
So we need a catchy thing. We'll work on it. We'll workshop it.
If you have any ideas, send something in to us.
Yeah, if you've got,
Yeah, workshop it. Yeah, but we're excited to have you join us. Can you just briefly tell us about yourself? How long have you been in China? Where are you from? What are you doing here? How did you end up here?
God, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? So I've been here for about 3.5 years. I moved here, as you said, in February 2019. It feels like I've been here forever. I teach, as a lot of expats do. And I just kind of fumble through daily life, honestly.
As many of us do.
And the inspiration for the podcast, how did you both come up with that? What happened there?
So me and Cassie, my co-host, who now lives in England, she lived in China before I did. We knew each other from back home. We both lived close to Liverpool. And we knew each other because we both used to do beauty blogging. So we knew each other from like the beauty blogging scene.
Oh, the scene.
Oh, yes. And we kind of didn't really speak much, but I knew she was moving to China and then she moved away. And then a few months later, this is me cutting a story right down. A few months later, I broke up with my partner of like 9 years.
Holy
and
crap.
I was like, yeah. And I had just finished growing my hair out and I was like, I can't cut my hair. What other drastic ass change can I make? So
the alternative was China.
It was how far away can I get from England without moving to Australia? And it turns out the answer was China. And I knew Cassie was living in China. So I messaged her and I was like, hey, I've just broken up with my partner. how hard was it to move to China? And she was like, what? And she's like used to getting messages from expats, well, not from expats, from people back home being like, you know, I'd love to move to China. I'd love to know how you did that. Tell me about it. Like, how do you do it? And then I was the first person who was like, yeah, I'm on my way to get my visa now. And she's like, oh shit.
You're real about this.
And then I showed up. And like, I was still like going through this really big breakup. I'd spent all of my 20s in this relationship with this really horrible man who is now dead to me.
God, 9 years. Yeah.
Yeah. All of my 20s. And then Cassie, who's a bit younger than I am, she was always very openly bisexual and very in touch with her sexuality. And for me, I hadn't gone through that period of exploration yet. So it was kind of like, it felt like two little worlds colliding there. Obviously, we got on from day one. So like, she kind of like opened my eyes a little bit. Like, since I moved to China, I went through a big like sexual exploration of myself. I came out as bisexual a couple of years ago, like while I was living here. And it has been a journey.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's so many things on top of each other. It's like your own personal journey. And you're in China, which is this whole other world of everything.
I don't think I would have gone through a similar journey back home because for me anyway, moving here, it kind of stripped away all expectations of me. Like, no one here fucking knew me. I could have done literally whatever I wanted. I could have rebranded myself in any way that I wanted. I didn't have expectations of any acts or any way I was just supposed to be. So I could really just be like, all right, I'm going to wear this today and just see what happens. Yeah. And people wouldn't be like, wow, you're a knobhead.
That's so true though. Coming to China, I think you're away from family pressures or societal pressures or like people knowing you and saying, no, you can't do that. Like that's not your thing.
Well, that's some, you know, we're going to be producing and releasing some videos that we did for LGBTQ, you know, Pride Month. And, you know, there's some stories that echo that experience. Yeah. Coming to China and just having all those expectations and that sort of identity that you may have adopted and like unwillingly carried. And you come to China and it's like a clean slate, or you can explore certain things that you may not have felt comfortable to do back home. But it's a common experience, I think, from you know, moving abroad. I think
it does sound like a little bit cliche, but like I think part of it is because at first anyway you're so isolated. I don't know about you guys, but I felt very isolated because you don't know the language, you don't really necessarily know anyone here, so you really spend a lot of time with yourself and you really get to figure out, what do I want, what is it that I want to do, like not what anyone else wants.
No, 100%. And it's the ironic thing as well that you're kind of in China and the idea is like China's super communistic and so cool. And like just hearing, like you said, the LGBTQ stories, actually it was kind of opening in an ironic way or paradoxically that you think it's going to be so closed. But if you find, once you get through that period of adapting to China, the culture shock, then moving on to finding communities that you're like, oh, there's room here for me to be exploring.
It's so weird that I felt freer here than I have anywhere else that I've been.
I think that's the surprising thing about China, when people, I mean, we might get into like the negative aspects of you know, Chinese society and living here and that clash of culture and norms. But that is one of the things that I don't think people back home or wherever they're from could wrap their heads around, is like how freeing it can be living here and liberating. It's strange.
It is. So tell us a little bit after you moved here and kind of were ready from your breakup to start dating and being out again and meeting people in the world in Beijing. How were your experiences dating here? And and then how has that kind of influenced the podcast and the kind of topics and discussions you had on there?
Well, I've had some doozies, I'll be honest. Particularly when like the borders were open and people were just coming and going all the time. There was a lot of like, I don't want to say fresh meat, but like there was a lot of new people.
I've heard other people definitely use that phrase.
But like one of our first episodes was talking about my very first Tinder date. because I didn't use Tinder back home. That kind of came out while I was in the depths of this terrible relationship. So I had my very first Tinder date in China, and wow, that was weird. Here's me at like 27 years old, like about to jump feet first into the dating pool with little armbands on, like, someone help me, please. But yeah, that was with a German guy who I don't remember where he worked. That's not relevant. I'm not going to dox him.
His details, we'll put his details on at the end of the episode. If you'd like to contact Mr. German.
Yeah. But yeah, like, thinking back, he was like super nice, but like the whole date was weird. He was like, let me tell you this story about one time I punched a Nazi in the face. And now if anyone said that to me now, I'd be like, Lit, please do tell me that story. But back then I was like, okay, I want to go home, please.
And you're like on a first date though, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, what?
Yeah. But because that was my very first date and I was really kind of nervous, Cassie like followed me on this date with one of my friends.
Did she wear like, you know, like a trilby hat and like glasses, and did she have a big newspaper with like eye holes cut out?
Well, we went to the bookworm and she has like a picture on her Instagram of her behind this big book, like looking at us on the table. She really wanted to be incognito. This bitch could not have been more cognito if she tried. Yeah. Like we moved from the bookworm to Blue Frog, and we were me and this guy were sat at a table, and then about 10 minutes later Cassie and one of my friends walked in, and he clocked them immediately, and he was like, if I didn't know better, I think these people knew you. And I was like, ha, what people? No, couldn't possibly. But who? What? I don't see any people. What are you talking about?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So but he was like nice. I think I just got a little bit scared because that was the first like date I'd been on.
It feels like a big step, and you're like, this is a lot.
We texted for a little bit, and then he did the thing that a lot of men do, and he's like, you know, I have this theory about you and girls with tattoos and piercings, and I'm like, oh, do tell. And he's like,
what is this?
I have a theory that you all like being choked and having your titties slapped.
Fuck off.
And I was like, okay. Okay, mate, listen, we don't know each other like that yet.
Is
it like used as a pickup line? Is that like God.
I think he thought it was going to be like, well, shall we find out?
Let's figure this out, yeah.
But no, I ghosted him a little bit after that. And then I felt really bad about ghosting him. So I got back in touch and I was like, hey, are you still in China? This was about 3 weeks later. I was like, hey, you still in China? Well, how's it going? I'm really sorry for ghosting you. You didn't deserve that. And he was like, yeah, you know. And we chatted. He was nice. And then he brought this up again. And I ghosted him again.
Excellent. How did he bring it up again? He was like, yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, I've been busy, keeping busy, going to the gym, going to work. So anyway, about the titty slapping.
About the titty slapping. Except at that point, I was a little bit more confident. And I was like, hey, well, you know, maybe we should test out that theory. And he was like, yeah. And then we started like exchanging lewds. And then I ghosted him because I'm a piece of shit. And yeah, I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry that I ghosted you twice.
If this German guy's out there listening,
we'll call him Hans. Put all Hans.
I'm sorry, Hans. Yeah.
You were nice. Doing well. Hope you found some titties to slap. I don't know.
Yeah. and a neck to choke.
Best wishes to you.
In a safe way, in a consensual, safe way.
Yes.
God, please do your research.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
What a
first
introduction to the fray of dating in China.
It's interesting how you started to like. What did you say? Something like, you know, a lot of men start like this, so they'll come up with this theory, like, I always suspect women, like, you know, like,
yeah.
Is that common?
Some of the things that people have said to me on Tinder, I would never say to anyone ever. I had one man match with me on Tinder who told me explicitly his biggest dream in life was to come in every girl he meets.
Fuck.
No.
I swear to you.
No.
And I was like, okay, I don't think we quite match on that one there, big guy.
Yeah.
And then the next morning he'd unmatched Kel Surprise.
Yeah.
The audacity.
Yeah. Honestly, the fucking
audacity
audacity
of
of some of
men.
these people.
That's a weird that's a weird interpretation of a bucket list.
Yeah.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So when I tell you there are these people out there, believe me, there are these people out there.
That is. Do you think, has it gotten better since the borders closed, or has it gotten worse?
Or
now
people
that
just crazier because they've gone stir
That's what I wonder.
crazy.
Yeah.
I
Is it
think
crazier
a lot
now?
of my really weird experiences were in the 2020 quarantine. So
Yeah, that
I'd
was a
say
period.
yeah.
That was a period.
Honestly, as soon as those restrictions lifted, people were absolutely feral.
Nuts. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
nuts.
I mean we've said this before on this podcast that like 2020, like round about the the start of the pandemic and stuff in Beijing, it was just like this like wild west.
Yeah.
Where we all thought the world was going to end and nobody knew and work was cancelled and we just had all this free time, yet the bars were open and it was just
Let's
a
fuck
frenzy.
everyone and everything we meet.
100%. No, literally, that's
it was
what
a
was.
frenzy.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was a very weird time in my life.
was a
It was a
weird
very
time.
strange time for
Yeah.
everybody, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how is that kind of, these dating experiences, has it kind of influenced what you decide that your guys are going to talk about and what you're choosing to share? Or what have you kind of learned from going through these experiences?
A lot of these experiences that I've had are funny because I have survived them.
You lived to tell the tale.
One-liners are just killing me.
They're only funny because, like, in hindsight, I can be like, well, wasn't that fucking ridiculous?
Yeah.
But, like, at the
Also
time.
traumatic at the time.
Oh, yeah.
But then you
Completely
can laugh
traumatic at
about
the
it
time, but
later.
haha, funny now. Like, there's been some really weird ones. I went on a date with a racist guy who took an hour and a half to ask me one question about myself. We'd been in the bar for an hour and a half. And he was like, so where you from? And I was like, did you not read my profile? And he was like, nah, I just saw your face and I thought, you're cute. Which is like the equivalent of, she'll do.
Yes.
And then he invited himself back to my apartment. And these are the things that are now funny. It's because at the time I didn't know how to say no. And I was like, this man who's a big, not that it matters where he's from, but he's like, because it just gives you a bit of picture. He's from South Africa. He's like big, 6 foot something.
Got big like rugby dudes there.
Yeah. And he's like, so are we going back to yours then? And I was like, yeah, I guess. And then we went back to my house and we were watching some sort of comedy special. I don't really remember how. And he starts cracking like racist jokes. And I'm like, okay. And again, at that point, I didn't know how to call him out because I'm like, this man's in my house. I don't want to like do anything to like provoke him.
Yes,
I don't want to be like, can you get the fuck out? And he's like, do you have any drinks? And I was like, I have some Qingdao in the fridge. Do you want some? And he was like, nah, it's for pussies. And he pulls out a thing of Captain Morgan from his bag.
What?
And he's like, do you have any mixers? I'm like, no. Unless you want to mix it with like beer. And he pulls out a bottle of Coke.
Oh.
And he's like, do you have a glass? So I get him a glass. And he's like, do you want some? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, get 2 glasses then. And he pours both of us a single measure, mixes in the Coke, puts the rum back in his bag. And I was like...
Puts the rum... No.
He put the rum back in his bag.
What a weird...
Flabbergasted. So he just carries this around with him like...
Very presumptuous.
Yeah, very presumptuous.
Don't be a cheapskate. Don't pour 1 glass and then put the bottle back
Literally.
in the bag.
I could have put it in the fridge. You could have just left it on the table, but nah, put it back in the bag so I can't
I'm pretty sure he's not like, earning...
Well, I think he knew at that point I wasn't going to fuck him, so he's like, I'm not going to give...
Not going to save me Captain Morgan, my well-earned Captain Morgan on thee.
Not even the good Captain Morgan.
Oh my God, but that's so presumptuous, first of all. And then I can totally understand that fear and saying no. Like, I know I've been in situations as well. And you're like, what do I do? Like, I'm uncomfortable, but I don't know what to say to get this person.
So you just kind of go along with it because...
And you're trying to be accommodating. You're trying to be nice.
Yeah, because there is this societal pressure upon women to be like accommodating for men. And you're programmed to be polite. And like it got to a point where I was kind of like, okay, I got to go to work tomorrow. This is when I was working weekends. And I was like, I got to go to work tomorrow. I'm so sorry. And then he like stood up and he went in for a kiss. And I was like, that was the point. I was like, no, thank you. No. And he was like, okay, let's do it again sometime. And I was like, yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, just pulling my door right behind me.
Get him out.
And then the next morning, just to seal the deal, he sent me a racist meme.
He's like, this will win her over.
This will work.
Yeah. And then I ghosted him. So listen, I complain about being ghosted all the time, but I am equally a piece of shit.
But I mean, listen, I feel like that's a good situation to ghost somebody in.
Yeah. So
yeah. Oh my God, that's nuts though.
Yeah.
But I totally get that. And there's so much pressure that you have to say yes. Or I've been on dates where you're like, well, the guy paid for the meal and he paid for drinks. I kind of feel like, well, I have to owe him like time I'm spending with him now. And to try to, all these weird mind games you play with yourself because you're like, I think I need to continue
It's so
this.
deeply ingrained into like people that are socialized as women that like you owe people something for their time or something that they've done for you. And it's very easy to forget that you don't owe these people shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
no, 100%. It doesn't matter like what they've bought or what they paid. It
exactly.
literally doesn't
If you don't want to
matter.
have sex with them, don't have sex with them.
Don't have sex with them.
Hot, fresh take.
Yes.
Don't fuck anyone you don't want to.
You heard it
I
here
support
first.
that. I support that.
Yeah.
100%. So can we talk about on your podcast, you recently had 2 episodes which were fabulous, and it was about fatphobia in China.
First of all, thank you.
Listen, like after you guys listen to this episode, go and follow From Tops to Bottoms, listen to their podcast.
Yes.
It's amazing. And you guys talk about so many things.
Thank you.
That's the thing. You cover so many topics. It's not even just China specific. It's about all over things.
But it's very natural, and it's just, it just sounds like you're talking to 2 mates. You're eavesdropping in on 2 mates just having a go at,
Not to like lick my own nipple or anything, but we get that a lot. We get a lot of people that are like, it's just like being with 2 people in the pub. Just like listening to their conversation. And I really like that a lot. I love that from podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just feels like you're like the third person hanging out with these people.
I like
hanging
that.
out and chatting. You
So
guys
thank
do
you.
so well. Really. So enjoy the podcast. And you guys, you cover so many things. So I feel like there's a lot to talk about. But let's kind of narrow in, I guess, for this specific topic. Because in the past, for Date Night China, we've done a few episodes and talked about beauty standards in China, what it's like, especially living and dating here as a female expat, and you're trying to adapt to these kind of beauty standards, and how does that affect your dating experiences? So can you kind of introduce to us a little bit about your recent episodes talking about that and your experiences with that here in China?
So when we talk about fat phobia, we did 2 episodes because I've been so fat for so long, and people get visibly uncomfortable when I say that, which sometimes makes me laugh when I refer to myself as fat. I'm like, yes, I know I'm fat. But like, there's so much that I've experienced, and I could talk about being fat for days, honestly, because there's just so much to talk about. That you get fat phobia from everywhere. It's not specific to China either. True. Yeah. It's in the West. I think the scope of fat phobia in China is a lot bigger. Like in our episodes, we talk about fat phobia in the medical profession, when you get tattoos. Oh God, I can't think now. Like, did I talk about being fat while dating? I don't know if I did. But yeah, there's just a whole range of places you get fat phobia from. But what kind of strikes me about China the most is that everyone here experiences fat phobia. Everyone. Yeah. And it's so I think it's not even specific to China, just say the whole of Asia. Like, it's so deeply ingrained in everyone that fat is disgusting. One thing I did mention is that I get 1 of 2 reactions from people normally. One is, oh my God, you're so fat, that's so disgusting. Or I'll get like kind of the older generation that will be like, well, you're kind of chubby, that means you have like a lot of money, so you can have like a lot of food. And I think the fatter you are, the more beautiful you are.
I do. Yeah, I remember hearing you guys mention that. Yeah. And it was just, I guess, the idea that like having money and wealth means you could afford food.
It's a very old traditional point of view, but I think nowadays, I mean, you've seen the billboards, like people are like stick thin. Like you see people on the streets.
There's recent trend as well. We were talking. You showed me this video recently from Asian Vice.
Oh yeah, Vice
about beauty standards.
Beauty
China.
standards and the sort of stigma of not looking or fitting into this quote unquote norm.
Yeah, and then you have like these weird challenges where it's like
the weird
the A4 paper challenge.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Or like there was the UN bill challenge. You had to wrap it around your wrist, and if you couldn't, or it had to be double it or something crazy.
Yeah, or just like the abuse. Like there was one story in this documentary. We'll have to put a link to it because it's really good. With these pop stars, and they got slated online, and it was nothing about the music. It's because people thought they didn't fit the standard of beauty.
You get that with a lot of K-pop bands as well, particularly notice all female K-pop bands where they're like, oh, this woman has put on so much weight. Yeah. And I look at her and I'm like, what? Like she's, but I lost my train of thought a little bit there.
Yeah, no, it's a lot though, because there's so many things. So you're talking about beauty standards, not even in China, but across Asia and how it affects people.
I'll tell you what though, China's given me some really thick fucking skin. Like, because I work with kids as well, and kids have absolutely no filter, and they repeat a lot of the things they hear from home. And the amount of kids, I'll be like, what? You're so fat. And I'm like, yeah, mate. And he's like, why are you so fat? And I'm like, I like to eat pizza and cake. Like, what do you want me to say, bro? Do you want my detailed medical history?
Right.
And he's like, that's really cool. And I'm like, is it? Okay, thanks. Bye. Thank you for this really weird interaction.
Bye. With a child.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, it's taught so young. It's an interesting thing in China as well because it's such a blunt and direct Chinese language, the way that they talk about
and they feel so uncomfortable to just openly just call you out on it. You know, I remember leaving work a few years ago and I left work early to go to the gym, you know, because I needed to go to the gym. And I came back and my boss was leaving work as I was coming back home. And she was like, oh, where have you been? And I went, oh, just been to the gym. And she looked at me and she went, is that for your stomach?
Fuck off.
I just took a moment, and because I'm very polite and British, I just looked at her and just went, it's for the stomach.
Yes, it was, thanks.
Yeah, it's for the stomach, yes, that's what I'm working on, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.
So specifically called out. Oh my God.
Well, even after these 2 months where I had off, I don't know about you guys still working from home, but I couldn't do any of my classes. So I had 2 months off where I just laid down and rotted. I could do nothing.
It's been a nice chill time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Filled with lots of anxiety, yes. But I went back this week and the first thing my co-teacher said to me when I walked in was like, wow, you look skinnier. And I was like, can we just have one fucking day where you don't tell me what my body looks like? Just one fucking day, please.
The conversation starter that we always have. That always confused me. Anytime when I was teaching university in Hunan, that would always be the thing. It was the first conversation starter, oh, you've lost a little weight. Your face looks thinner. Or, oh, you've gained a little weight. And you're like, oh God, I don't need this daily update from you guys.
Please, God, leave me alone.
Yes. It's a very, different thing being here in China where it's so blunt and direct.
Well, I'm kind of outside of the societal norms for both the West and the East. So I've been kind of used to it since I was a kid from back home. But what I wasn't prepared for was for it being sometimes a barrier. I wasn't prepared because it's never been a barrier for me before. I'm perfectly able to do things. My first week in China, I was fired from a kindergarten for being too fat.
No way.
Yeah. And they wouldn't say that to me, but I knew that was why. Oh. And I know anyone kind of listening who is not plus size, isn't fat, will be like, that sounds fucking crazy. If they're just saying that you're not a good fit for the job and they're saying oh, you're not active enough with the kids or you're not doing this. That's not them firing you because you're fat. But if you're fat and listening to this, you know.
Yeah.
You can just tell when someone's doesn't want to say that it's because you're fat that they're treating you differently.
You just know.
Other
excuses or reasons why.
And honestly, good. I fucking hated that place. But also that was really upsetting at the time. I can look at it now. I can look back and laugh now. And you kind of expect some kindergartens to be like, or some particularly parents, sometimes parents are the worst. And you're like, I know I'm fat, but I'm still a good teacher. And I went through a phase, like particularly on Tinder as well. I felt like I had to declare that I knew that I was fat, or it had to be like a disclaimer, like before we met in person. I'd be like, just so you know, in case you haven't used your eyes, I'm fatter than the normal person. And they'd be like, okay, this is weird. But like, I felt like I had to do that because that to me felt better than getting to meet someone and then being like, you know, when they have that initial kind of like, oh, and you do get that sometimes, and I don't like that.
It's not a good way to start a date.
No, it's not.
Have you received anything kind of on the other spectrum of it, like any fetishizing or things like that?
There's such a fine line between like appreciating a body type and fetishization, and there were times where I didn't quite know where I sat on that line. I've had a lot of people that fetishize my body, and people that would message me and be like, oh, I've never fucked a fat chick before. Like, when are we gonna fuck? And I'm like, bye. But yeah, honestly, like, because I'm not just like a little bit chubby, like I'm, you know, particularly kind of fat, you would have a lot of people that would be like, I love your body type. I just love it so much. And I think in a respectful way, I like that. Because it makes me feel comfortable, because I'm like, you have eyes, you know what I look like. But people that are like, oh my God, I just love you so much, it makes me feel super uncomfortable. I don't even love myself that much.
I mean, it's weird to, accepting compliments as it is, but when it's just a bit too much and a bit excessive, then I can imagine how that sort of like that line of, like you say, like appreciation and fetishization is just easily skipped. It's like, you've ruined it.
Yeah, you've ruined it, honestly. Too far. Some people love to be fetishized, and I will never take that away from them. I just think that's not quite me.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it's good that you know for yourself that you're like, I'm comfortable with this, and I'm not comfortable with
you can acknowledge my body type and say that you like it, but please don't let that be the only thing that you're attracted to.
Yeah.
We've heard that a lot on the podcast as well from different guests with whatever, however they present, whoever they are, because it's the foreign element. So any aspect of who they are, like race or color or height or, like what people imagine the genitalia might look like, is then sort of like seen as like a trophy to get.
Or a box to tick off and collect.
I was literally just about to say, for a lot of people, I tick 2 boxes. I'm fat and I'm a foreigner. So they're like, wow, ding, ding, bitch. So like I would get a lot of like local people who would say to me, like, I've always wanted to like be with a fat girl, like a fat foreign girl, even just a foreign girl. And then like, okay, cool. Because a lot of people like they'll see me as good enough to fuck, but not good enough to date or marry or be seen in public with. I think that's the worst part about dating, honestly. Like, I am perfectly now I'm happy with myself. Even now still I'm like, I have troubling times. But like, I'm comfortable with myself now. But what hurts the most is like some people who have not done their own work. And they're like, well, I'd never be seen in public with you, but like I would take you back to my house and fuck you. And you have to leave after about 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah. Some people are like that.
And then you feel just like an object. You're like, well, great. So
and
I'm not even a person to you.
Some people like that, but like I don't want to just be used like a fleshlight, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. Some people are gross. Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
That's true. This is the world we live in today. That's awful.
And that's why I'm not dating men.
Wow.
Have you heard from like other, especially like foreign female expats? I know it's a conversation we've talked about, and Nathan would like some more wine.
Top them up.
And
just a break here, just so we can get more
quick
refreshing.
refuel. Thank you.
As well.
Go for it.
I'm just gonna top you off.
ASMR time.
Yes. Finish the bottle. We've talked a lot, I guess, especially to female expats about that kind of thing and how difficult it is. And, we started doing video interviews now. And one of the questions we ask people is like, who has it more difficult dating in China, men or women? And like, it's usually a resounding
unanimous.
Yes for the women, because there are so many things that go into a female expat dating here versus a man. So what has your experience been to that, and what would your kind of answer be to that?
I, for a long time, only tended to like date other foreigners, not necessarily on purpose, but because a lot of local men are very like stagnant. And I know that kind of came up in your... Oh.
Yeah. Ignore that. I'm not going to edit that out.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. Bye. I know that's come up in like previous episodes before about how local men are like quite stagnant and how they have this very typical view of what their future... Hello, welcome back. What their future wife looks like and what's expected from them. And I don't fit a lot of those standards for people. So I was like... I went through a period where I was like, I just want to have fun. I just want to meet other people. I didn't necessarily want to settle down.
Yeah.
And I do agree that women, I know I've just waffled for a little while, but I agree women do have a harder time because men are very stagnant sometimes.
Yes. I think that's a hard question as well. It just encompasses so many things, and depending on who you are, where you're coming from. But especially like when I was in a smaller city and kind of dating other Chinese guys or talking about I know they have a lot of their own pressure to provide for the family, settle down. Yeah. They're very worried about foreign women wanting to take the man away. And that's just not, the importance of generational, care and stuff in China. Yeah. But then also there's a lot of other stigmas and things about Chinese men looking at foreign women and doing a certain thing. And they always assumed I was very open, or like, isn't your life like Gossip Girl? You're very rich. You drive a nice car. You have lots of money.
Is your life like Gossip Girl? Fucking hell.
I was asked that. And they're like, and you like just have lots of sex. Like, that's what you do. And I was like,
God, isn't that the dream?
Right. I was like, I wish, but I don't, I don't check any of those boxes. Damn it.
Yeah, I'm just a normal bitch.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it's really an interesting question.
Yeah. I think as well, because like for a lot of foreigners, your time here is fleeting. So like a lot of local men don't want to settle down with someone that they think might just leave.
Yeah.
Because I think there is that fear there that something will come up at home that you have to go home for, or like you'll just want to bail.
Yeah.
So
yeah, 100%. Like I think transient life here, like
take a drink. Transient. Somebody said the word transient. I've got a new life rule because everybody talks about.
We all say this, yeah.
Everybody talks about life in China and the expat experience, and anytime somebody uses the word transient, I drink.
That's a good.
one. My drinking in would be expiration date. I feel like China has an expiration date for a lot of people.
Yeah, not as common as transient. Oh. I've been paying attention.
The phrasing.
Yeah, because we've upped our interview intake, and transient is the key word. Huh.
Yeah, that's very true.
I agree.
It's kind of like Sesame Street,
Transient.
Today's episode is sponsored by the word transient.
Transient. I think there's just so much. It's a lot to talk about with the female expat experience.
Do you find that it's been been therapeutic then, talking that out through the podcast and having a space that is yours, that you have defined and designed?
1,000%, yes. And I'm very aware that I've created a little echo chamber for myself where people are like, yeah, fat people can date, you can do whatever you want. And that's nice. That's what I want.
But isn't that great? Like, it's a supportive community.
Yeah, and I know obviously in the bigger world that there are a lot of people that hate fat people, they hate gay people, they hate bisexual people. Not in my world though.
Yeah, but that's good though. I read a quote the other day that was kind of like, you can create your own reality. And not in a delusional way, but like you can choose the supportive communities or the people around you. Like, we all know the bad shit happens in the world, and there are bad people and awful views. So how do you construct a really positive environment then for yourself in the middle of all of that?
I filter a lot of comments.
Yeah, good.
And because I went for a long time not acknowledging the fact that I was fat online, because it just kind of welcomed things that I wasn't ready for. It welcomed comments I wasn't ready for. And then very recently, I started posting about this new medication that I take and like how I'm actively trying to lose weight, not because I hate my body, but because, there's like health things that I want to take care of. And it opened the door for a lot of people to be like, wow, you're still fat and ugly. What next? And like before, if that had been like a couple of years ago, I'd have been heartbroken. But now, because I've had 2 years, this podcast has been running for quite a long time, I've like built myself up and had a long time where no one said like anything horrible about my personal experiences. Like people say things on the street about me being fat and foreign all the time. Who fucking cares? You're a person that doesn't know me. But when people listen to my personal experiences and then they have something to say, it kind of hurts a little bit. But because I've had so long when no one's really said anything like that, it's been really weird to open those gates, particularly for that, for fatphobia.
Yeah, I feel like I saw recently on your stories that you posted a comment or you kind of shared this guy, because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't remember exactly what he said. But
I could tell you if I wanted to dig through all the screenshots, but I have so many Ulama screenshots of me translating shit. But it was something along the lines of, okay, well you can lose weight, but you'll still be ugly and stupid. So what next? And like, ow. Fuck. Yeah, people are bold.
People like, are assholes online.
Yeah.
And it's like... Yeah. Also, do you think it's like the screen of like, well, I'm online, I can say whatever I want? Or do you think he'd probably still be an asshole in person too?
Well, I mean, underneath the thread of comments where I was like, okay, mate, thank you. You sound like quite the conversationalist. He posted his phone number and he was like, call me. No. Call me then. And I'm like, no thanks.
Oh, wow. This is him flirting.
Yeah, honestly. And he was like, oh, by the way, it's plus da-da-da for Australia. And I was like, get fucked, mate. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to call Australia? No thanks. I'm not topping up my Skype balance for this.
This is like a really weird and perverse, like, you've got mail.
Yeah.
Like, just like a really shit version.
If I wanted someone to call me fat, I'd call me Ma.
But also, like, you know, this, hopefully, I mean, we think that with the podcast and what we talk about, hopefully it's just a point of education as well, because sometimes there is that ignorance there, right? Because of the culture and society and just how things are over here. And maybe you think, naively maybe, all you need is just a conversation, or you need to put an article out with somebody's different point of view, or you need to hear these stories from different people just so you realize that it's not so like other. You know, like we're all the same, even though we're foreigners. It's hard to do over here.
It's such an uphill battle, like trying to get people to see that you're not just like this fat piece of shit, you know? And I know that sounds... Sorry, just hiccuping from the wine. And I know that sounds like drastic, but it really is. It's like an uphill battle. And it just feels like you're screaming into the void sometimes. And I know obviously you've had a lot of various guests and you're trying to put out all these different viewpoints. It's not just for like fat people, like it's for gay people. It's for people that are non-binary. It's a lot of people that are outside the norms. So, and because a lot of people here are maybe not so much now, but there still is this big community of people that are very, very closed-minded. Like
and you know, with the episodes that we do and the stuff that we try and put out there, you know, you don't know whether you're just preaching to the converted already, and people that like it would have liked it anyway, or a similar topic, and you don't know how many people are really swayed and think, oh, you know, that episode really made me think, or actually I need to reevaluate some of my values. But it's hard to, you know, it's hard to gauge. But you know, if you were gonna do it for like counting the numbers on how many converts you made, I don't think you'd have a fun time doing any of this.
I think particularly with fatphobia as well, it's like a very slow like chipping away, because the thing with fatphobia is it's in every community. It's in the LGBTQ community. It's in any other queer community. It's everywhere. Like everyone from day one is socialized to feel like they have to fit in this normal, which is typically like slim, slender, fit, healthy. It doesn't make you any lesser if you are not fit and healthy. Like fat people can be healthy, fat people can be unhealthy. That doesn't mean we're not deserving of the same respect. And I think that everyone is fatphobic, whether you like it or not. Everyone's fatphobic. I'm fatphobic. I have a lot of internalized fatphobia that I deal with all of the time. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh God, you know, and I think a lot of people do that. And people are like, I just wish I could be slimmer. I just wish I could lose 10 pounds. Or like I went through a phase, and it's not my proudest moment, but like you look at someone else on the street, and this was when I was a teenager, you look at someone else on the street and think, God, thank God I'm not as fat as this person. And that's fucking horrible. I would never think that about someone now. And I think that that's because I've spent so much time thinking about it myself. And I know that was a long, hard journey that I was prepared to do. A lot of people are not prepared to do that journey. So it just, sometimes you really got to shove it down the throat.
Yeah, I was surrounded by it. It's so deeply ingrained into society and culture.
And it's exhausting, honestly.
It is exhausting. And I look at stuff and like, like I admire, I'm massively into comic books. And then, I see those superheroes brought to life on screen. And like I dream of looking like that, with the, the six-pack and chiseled body and stuff, and then you're just reminded that it's like, oh yeah, that is definitely not me.
Yeah.
But that's what you're told that's
it's
what a
like
man
this
should
goal
look like.
that you have to aim for.
Yeah.
And I hate to bring capitalism into this, but like it's reasons for people to go to the gym, to buy diet products,
spend the money,
to spend that money on making yourself this ultimate version of yourself. But the ultimate version of yourself is a version of you that you love. Like it doesn't have to be like this person with big chiseled abs. Like, Yeah.
I'm actually reading a book right now about like attachments and like the idea of letting go of certain attachments of identity. And it's, one of the things is what you just said about being in love with the person who you are right now and that being imperfect rather than trying to love a perfect self, because that is not real,
Yeah. A lot of people are like in love with the potential that they have. But like you could never live up to this goal that you have for yourself. Like one thing that my therapist taught me is she's like, if you set all of these ridiculously high goals for yourself, you're just going to make yourself fucking miserable all the time. Yeah. Like just enjoy the time that you have. You don't know how long that's going to be. And I don't want to be like, we only have one life, just live it. But like don't spend
YOLO. But
don't spend all of your time making yourself fucking miserable and hating the body that you live in. Like it's hard. I get it. I'm not going to take that away from anyone, but like try, just try and make peace with even if you don't love yourself, you can be neutral about yourself. Be like, this is the vessel that I have.
I've seen a lot more out there about like, instead of like body positivity, why don't we just like have body neutrality?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to have this crazy, like, I love myself all the time.
Yeah, because no one does.
That's impossible.
Yeah, no one loves themselves all the time.
No.
But if you can make peace with the body that you have, learn how to take care of it, both mentally and physically, and nourish what you have, your time's going to be so much more pleasant here, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. So coming from that, and it's a long ongoing journey, I know, and with all of us, with our own body positivity and all of those things, our body just figuring things out for yourself. Have you had some positive experiences dating in China, or have any positive community experiences here where you found people that are like, yes, these are like-minded people. This is a good tribe?
I think it was mostly when I started meeting people from the kink community and the queer community that I really just kind of like let go. And I was like, do you know what? These people don't care what I look like. And that, again, was a really nice environment to foster myself in. So, yeah, that was really nice. I had very positive experiences with both the kink and queer community, because everyone there is very, very diverse, and a lot of people are from very different cultures there as well. There's South Africans, there's Americans, there's British people, there's lots of people in those communities. So it was very nice to integrate myself there.
And that's what we will be publishing also on the videos that we're doing, the recent interviews that we've had, the huge positivity and the what people have to say about the communities that you can build in China.
Yeah.
No matter what city you're in, you can find people that are really there for you. You know? And I think that's the beautiful thing about China is that you can find communities, and if there's not a community, you can build one.
Yeah, and I think that within the communities that there are a lot of people that will not be your people. A lot of people that have toxic behaviors, have things that you might not agree with. However, within those communities, you will find like little gems. You will find people that you'll enjoy so much, because my circle's very, very small. I'm very selective about who I hang out with, not to be like,
Well, you're a podcast presenter, so
yes,
don't be hanging out with the riffraff.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yes, absolutely. Isn't it great? Isn't it wonderful having a podcast?
You peasants.
More wine, please.
Cheers.
Cheers, yes, chin chin. What were we talking about?
We all take a drink.
Who fucking knows, honestly?
Your small social circle.
But it's like quality,
yeah, there we go.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah,
it's finding good people that you're like, yes.
Yeah, I also don't like to make too many friends, as I mentioned just before we start recording, because everyone fucking leaves.
Yes.
That's one of the things with moving abroad.
Everybody leaves.
Everybody leaves.
They're leaving us.
You know, like the long timers that have been in China for a while. Like, when you start talking about how down you are that your friends are leaving, they'll always come in with like, "Oh yeah, I'm on like my third cycle of friends." You know what I mean? Like
that's exhausting. Honestly, you pour so much time and emotional energy into these people, and then they fuck off to the other side of the world. And you're like, thanks, bitch.
They have to start all over. I had a conversation with somebody on the phone yesterday who's going to come on to a later episode, but he was just like, I'm on my third wave of friends now, and I'm too tired to make new friends. Like,
you mean I have to do
tired.
I have to do the small talk all over again? Like, so what weird shit are you into? Come on, just cut to the chase. Cut to the chase, please. What can we bond over here?
Yes. You're like, I'm tired of the same old. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
I
love it though. I do love it here. You meet so many different people. I do love it.
It is really good. I think that's why
I bitch about it, but I love it.
That's why we've all stayed so long, though. You know, like, we have the option. We could just go home. But also, there are a lot of positive things and things that we do enjoy about China. And the people, the communities, the experiences. There are some negatives. There are some positives.
Oh, there's hella negatives, but there's a lot of positives.
That's just the thing, I guess, right? Like, that is the mix. So if you had any advice you would share then for people living in China or coming to terms with what we were talking about, body neutrality or anything like that, or specifically
trying to find peace with it and date.
Yeah, female expats as
Surround yourself with people that love you. Like, I grew so much when I surrounded myself with people that loved me no matter what. Not unconditionally, because all love has conditions, but people that would love me no matter what I was sort of going through, people that would support me through that. And I think it's very important that you have that circle of friends, no matter how big, no matter how small it is. Even if it's just one person that knows the shit you're going through, don't do it alone, because this place can be so isolating at the best of times. And if you're really going through it, if you're coming to terms with like your sexuality, that is so hard to do by yourself.
Yeah. And you know, we've seen that exacerbated because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And the isolation and the quarantine and the...
God, everyone's gay and feral after the quarantine. I love it. I love it. Gay and feral, honestly. I came out as bisexual during the quarantine. Like, I knew I was like queer before that, but that was when I truly sat down and was like, okay, let's tell my parents, because otherwise they're going to hear about it on the podcast, and I don't want that.
Do your parents listen to the podcast? And they
listen to some of them. I do tend to give them warnings and be like, maybe don't listen to this one if you don't want to hear about a breeding kink, please.
Oh wow! I don't let my I don't think my parents have listened to the podcast. I've not asked them to.
They'd probably be so polite and not tell you.
They wouldn't tell me.
I don't know if mom listened to our first episode. I hope you're not listening to this, Mom, anymore. But like
Hi, Rachel's mom. I hope you're listening.
It was like that
was a bit brutal.
Very first episode though, and it was before Nathan and I were dating, and we would just get shit faced. We were just drinking and having fun though. It was really fun banter, but like. Later, Nathan and I started dating, and that was when she chose to go back and listen to episode 1 before we were dating.
Oh no!
And she was like,
"Don't judge me on those."
What? Who is this guy?
Who is this man that you have chosen? Yes. Oh my god!
Really,
I can't even.
It frightened her a bit, yeah. But she's fine now. I just wish I had told her like explicitly, don't listen to this.
I mean, none of us are getting careers in politics, thank God. So,
God bless.
I don't think these are going to end our careers. I don't.
No.
Jinx such words.
Oh God, please.
Knock on wood somewhere. But I mean, I think it's different with parents. Though you're kind of like. But it's great that you opened up and you talked to them about it. How did they take it? Were they kind of...
Oh, well, yeah. I came out over a house party call. Remember house party? I got my whole family on house party. I told my sisters the night before, and I was like, how do you think they're going to take it? Except I sound cool saying it now. I was tears streaming down my face like, do you think I'm going to be okay? And they were like, yes. And then I got them all at a house party call and came out. And they were like, okay, cool.
What do you want to say?
Like,
Yeah.
Cool, are we going to play bingo or what?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I thought we were all here for a game, not for tears, bitch.
Yeah. Wow, way to make it all about you.
Yeah,
Okay.
literally.
That's some good energy, though. That's some good energy.
That's how that went down.
Wow. 2020 was a good, interesting
nuts.
year for you.
Absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So do you have any other questions?
I think all I want to tell people is to check out the podcast.
Yeah,
because,
me too.
Yeah, please do.
From Tops to Bottoms is hilarious. And
Thank you again.
It's a riot. So please listen.
Where can people find your podcast and where can
let's do
people
the plug.
find your
Let's do the
socials
official-
and everything?
If you want to follow me on Instagram, no, our handles are at From Tops to Bottoms on Instagram. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the usual streaming platforms. Yeah, you can follow me and Samantha in BJ. Cassie also does some really great sex education work. She's training to be a nurse.
Yes, she has some really
Makes
cool
it
stuff.
a
Yes.
nightmare for recording, but she's doing great, amazing work. And hers is at radicallove.co.uk.
Oh man, that was an excellent plug.
And hello to Cassie. We've not said hello to Cassie.
no.
Hi, Cassie.
Thanks for sticking through the episode. I hope you've not skipped through.
Please.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for listening to this week's episode. Go follow them. Go check them out. They're amazing. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.